Hey guys, so last year Viltrox gifted us a nice little nifty 20mm f2.8 lens, autofocus, E-Mount for Sony. And I thought, what better place to test it out in the Dominican Republic. Okay, it's actually Monday and it was a slow day at the office, so let's jump in and we'll take a look. So why would any self-respecting photographer want to take an inexpensive lens like the Viltrox 20mm f2.8 and shove that onto the end of your Sony A7 IV, A7 III, or A9? Well, it's a good question. Did I mention that it's cheap, $158 US? It's super lightweight, and the images that it renders are not bad. My rationale for purchasing this lens was, number one, that it's cheap. Number two, I've always been interested in the Sony G 20mm focal length. But because I've got the 24mm G Master, just never really felt that I needed the two lenses. But then a couple of weeks ago, I'd made plans to head down to the Dominican Republic, so I knew that I'd be able to use the 20mm focal length. And so that was my rationale for purchasing this lens. Okay, so another term that you guys might come across in your quest to find the perfect lens, and that is when you're searching for a lens, how the lens renders makes a huge difference. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. This is the Sony 50mm f1.2. I bought it simply because I wanted to have one lens that was laser sharp every time. I didn't have to worry about it. I knew this thing was going to be tack sharp no matter what I do with it. Now, if you're shooting models all the time, maybe showing every nook and cranny and little hair on their face is probably not the best thing. This lens I would refer to as a dirty lens, and this Viltrox 85-1.8, I just like the way that this lens renders the images. There's just something about it that appealed to me. Now, why would I call this lens a dirty lens? Because when you build a lens like this and make it inexpensive, you have to expect that you're going to get a little bit of vignetting or ghosting or fringing or things like that come with it. Although I was pleasantly surprised that there is a little vignetting with this lens, but not a lot of anything else. I mean, it really does a pretty good job. And then the other reason, which I'm going to show you an example of in a second, is that right now my 24G Master is probably 3 feet from nose to the end of the lens. With a 20mm, you can get a heck of a lot closer. Let's have a look. Okay, so let's do a direct comparison. I've got my handy tape measure here. I'm touching the front of the lens hood on my 24G Master, and I would say probably 52 inches is a good number, you know, from here to the lens hood. And now let's compare that to the 20mm Viltrox. Okay, so now I've got the Viltrox lens mounted, and I can reach out and touch the lens cap, like so. The distance, 28 inches right to here. So where this lens is going to come in handy is if you're somebody driving around the country doing videos out of your trailer or something like that, and you've only got a limited amount of space, 2 feet, you'll be able to get away with making videos with the 20mm lens focal range. Just keep in mind that, you know, the closer you extend to the outside edges of the lens, the more distorted things are going to get. But as long as you're just focusing, you're doing headshots or something like that, you've got nothing to worry about. Okay, so now we'll take a look at some images straight out of camera. I did a little bit of cropping, but no editing whatsoever. And this first image, yeah, definitely you can see a little bit of vignetting around the edges, you know, here. But all in all, this is a pretty decent image for a lens that costs only $158. Now, here's another example. I can't detect any fringing on this image whatsoever, and you know, it renders the image fairly well. And so let's take a look at another one here. Now, this was shot in a dark cave, obviously, so you're not going to be able to detect any vignetting here, but still, you know, this lens cut the mustard for sure. And here's another image. So bright sunny day, and I can see like a faint hint of vignetting here, maybe around the images, but I think it's arguable, to be honest with you. And last but not least, here's another example. I mean, if the vignetting is there, you know, no non-photographer person or untrained eye is going to notice it. That's for sure. So let's get into the details. Autofocus is pretty damn good and almost silent to boot. It's definitely not the sharpest lens, but that's to be expected, of course. The minimum focus distance is about 19 centimeters, and I found no chromatic aberration at all with relatively good flare control. This is not a stabilized lens and weighs in at a whopping 157 grams. The build is plastic with a non-sealed metal mount, which sports a USB-C port for firmware updates, and its filter size is 52 millimeters. So here's what I think this lens is good for. Landscape, architecture, vlogging for sure, as I think 20 millimeter focal length is ideal for that purpose. And last but not least, this makes a great travel lens due to its lightweight and ability to do many things. Value for money is off the charts incredible. And you should probably just go buy 3 of them right now. But seriously, this is a no-brainer. If you're at all interested in the 20 millimeter focal length, you can buy this lens with a great deal of confidence. Just do it. Okay, my friends, so the Viltrox 20 millimeter f2.8 lens, what more needs to be said? You've seen the images. This is a complete no-brainer. If you're interested in the 20 millimeter focal length, just go out and buy this lens. You won't be disappointed. And that's going to wrap it up for this one. Thanks very much for watching. If you found the video useful, hit the subscribe, like, and notification buttons for me. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one.
Do you ever get tired of opening and closing tripod lever locks or twisting and untwisting locking collars? Well, I did, and that's why 3 years ago I built my own self-balancing camera stand, and you can too. In the description of this video, you'll find a link to a copy of my latest build guide. The guide offers a complete walkthrough of the build process, in addition to PowerPoint and PDF files that you can print as a job aid, and that's not all. You'll also find over 20 high-res images that you can zoom in on to clarify any aspect of the build, and you'll also find a links page which shows you exactly where to purchase all the key components. If you're subscribed to my channel, I'll offer email support, so in the unlikely event you get stuck on something during your build, you've got someone to fall back on for support. So if you're still sitting on the fence as to whether you should build one of these for yourself, my advice is just do it. It'll change your life, believe me.